Paul, ministry support, and a misunderstood choice.
Part 2.
In Part 1, we established from Scripture that ministers have the right to receive support. Now in Part 2, we must answer an important question. If Paul affirmed this right, why did he sometimes refuse support? The answer is found in context, not contradiction. In 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 12, Paul says, "If others are partakers of this right over you, are we not even more? Nevertheless, we have not used this right, but endure all things lest we hinder the gospel of Christ." Notice Paul's language carefully. He calls support a right, not an error. But he says, "We have not used this right." Paul did not deny the right. He temporarily laid it down.
Why?
Because in certain cities, especially Corinth, teachers were often viewed as traveling philosophers who preached for money. Paul did not want the gospel to be confused with profit. So Paul chose to remove every possible accusation. In 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 18, Paul explains further. "What is my reward then? That when I preach the gospel, I may present the gospel of Christ without charge, that I may not abuse my authority in the gospel." Paul feared misrepresentation, not provision. Now notice something very important. Paul's refusal of support in Corinth did not mean he rejected support everywhere. In 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 8, Paul says something striking. "I robbed other churches, taking wages from them to minister to you." That statement alone proves Paul was not against receiving support. Paul refused support from the Corinthians, but accepted support from other churches while ministering to them. This shows us that Paul's decision was strategic, not moral. He adjusted his approach depending on the environment. In 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 22, Paul explains his principle. "I have become all things to all men, that I might by all means save some." Paul's concern was not comfort. It was credibility. He was willing to work with his hands when necessary, and receive support when appropriate, as long as the gospel was not hindered. This means Paul's example cannot be turned into a universal rule. It was a missional choice, not a ministerial command. In the next part, we will look closely at Paul's work as a tent maker and why working with his hands did not cancel his apostolic authority.